Elise Martel's universe was precisely 12 stone steps below the farmhouse kitchen, in a vaulted cellar where wheels of Saint Florian, her family's blue-veined specialty, matured on spruce planks. The cellar smelled of damp earth, straw, and the faint sweetness of warm milk, comforting scents that could lull her into thinking the rest of the world was equally cordial. Only the ticking barometer nailed above the door reminded her that storms, literal and otherwise, could always roll in from the Auvergne hills. On a drizzly Thursday in late September, Elise descended those steps for her hourly inspection. She carried the slender iron trier that allowed her to core a plug from each cheese, testing texture and aroma. 8 months earlier, she had inoculated these very wheels with Penicillium roqueforti, wrapping them eventually in linen. Now the linens had been removed, revealing rugged rinds mottled green and silver, like tiny geological surveys. She paused at rack 3, wheel 6. Where the rind normally showed random blossoms of mould, this one bore a distinct shape, a crooked Y, splitting toward what looked uncannily like 2 lakes. Elise blinked, wiped condensation from her glasses, and studied it again. The outline matched, almost perfectly, the river fork and twin reservoirs a few kilometers north of Saint-Florian-des-Prés, her village. She had biked past them countless times. Curious, she murmured, and chalked a discreet star on the wheel's edge. The next day brought a deeper intrigue. Wheel 9 displayed a jagged line of white mould tracing the ridge of Montrevedy. Wheel 11 hosted a pale circle resembling the quarry near La Glebe. Individually, each could be coincidence, but together they suggested deliberation, as if the cellar were quietly sketching a cartographer's digest of local landmarks. Elise fetched the cellar's previous logbooks, leafing through records in her grandmother's spidery hand. Nowhere did Yvette Martel mention cartographic moulds. Yet in the 1943 ledger, a single cryptic note appeared beside an asterisk. Cheeses instructive this season, follow the rivers. Beside the remark, a delicate fleur-de-lis was doodled in ink. The year 1943. German occupation. Saint-Florian had escaped the worst of the war, though rumour claimed resistance fighters smuggled messages in milk churns and hid rationed fuel in shepherds' grottos. Elise remembered her grandmother speaking wistfully of les jours courageux, then falling silent, unwilling to elaborate. Could the cheeses have played a role? She needed a sounding board, someone with equal parts curiosity and discretion. That someone was her best friend and occasional partner at village fairs, Luc Morel, the local postmaster. On Saturday afternoon, she cycled to the post office, a stone cottage festooned with drying lavender. Luc, dark-haired and dimpled, was counting commemorative stamps. "Have you come to mail more samples to the Gastronomy Awards?" he asked. "Not exactly." She closed the door behind her. "I need your eyes on something odd." He listened, eyebrows arched higher with every sentence, until she unrolled a hand-drawn composite of the mould patterns. Luc fetched a topographical map from behind the counter. They overlaid her tracing atop it and gasped in unison. The matches were uncanny: watershed lines, quarry, even the abandoned rail spur that once ferried basalt to Lyon. "Is your cellar possessed by a patriotic spirit?" Luc teased, then sobered. "Or perhaps the moulds react to geological spores you carry on your boots? Boot-borne spores can't paint cartographic accuracy onto 12-kilogram wheels. Something else is at work." Luc tapped the 1943 notation. "Follow the rivers. Maybe your grandmother left breadcrumbs." "Breadcrumbs to what?" "Let's find out." They agreed to return to the cellar that evening when the farm quieted. Elise's father, retired now, was visiting friends in Clermont-Ferrand. The only witness would be Matisse the barn cat, hardly a gossip. At dusk they descended with lanterns. Luke inspected the chalk-starred wheels, photographing them with his phone. These rivers converge, he mused, mapping a finger from the crooked Y through the Mont Reverdy outline toward the quarry. If we plot bearings, wait. Elise pointed to a cluster of dark blue spots near the Rhine's edge, forming what looked like a compass rose. The longest prong aligned almost due east. A built-in orientation, Luke whispered, awed. Elise's pulse quickened. What if each cheese gives one segment, and together they reveal a path? They rearranged the 12 wheels on a clean plank, aligning compass roses northward. Under lantern light, the greenish veins linked across Rhines like luminous rivers. A trail emerged from the farm, followed a gentle valley, skirted Mont Reverdy, and ended with a boulder blotch on wheel 12. Luke zoomed his phone camera. The final blotch resembled a cave. As children, they had explored limestone caverns beneath the ridge above La Glebe, forbidden by anxious parents after a landslide blocked one entrance. Could there be something hidden there? Munitions, documents, treasures spirited away during the war. Elise bit her lip. If Grand-mère meant to guide someone, why encode the map in cheese? Luke chuckled. Because Germans searched paperwork, not dairy wheels. Besides, once eaten, evidence disappears. Thunder rattled overhead, and droplets pattered through the stone ventilation shaft. Elise shivered. Her grandmother was renowned for sharp instincts, when to stir curds, when to duck gendarmes. Perhaps Yvette had hidden something valuable, something best kept secret until the right moment. We could hike up tomorrow, Luke proposed. Take the marked path in daylight. Elise agreed, though a knot of nerves settled in her stomach. She imagined newspaper headlines. Cheesemaker uncovers wartime bunker. Tourism would spike, sure, but meddlesome officials too. She preferred the steady hush of milk turning to curd, not the clamour of treasure hunters. Before dawn, they packed accordingly. Lanterns, rope, water, and a picnic of rye bread, Tom fraiche, and apples. Luke borrowed the key to the parish archives, intending to cross-reference property records afterward if needed. Mist clung to sheep pastures as they set off, following a dirt lane that matched the mold's first segment. Curling leaves of poplar trees gleamed wetly, and the air smelled of moss and wood smoke. After 40 minutes, they reached the valley floor. A meandering brook mirrored the crooked Y from wheel 6. They hopped stones across it, climbing a steeper track toward Mont Reverdy. The path narrowed between hedges of hawthorn. Elise, usually talkative, fell uncharacteristically silent, listening for any echo of her grandmother's laughter or warnings, but heard only the heartbeat thump in her ears. When they reached the quarry's rim, now flooded into an emerald pool, she checked the composite map. The trail skirted the pool's north side, so they followed a shelf of rock where lizards basked. Beyond the quarry rose limestone bluffs riddled with dark mouths, the long forbidden caves. 50 years ago, villagers had hauled stones to block most openings, yet frost cycles and goat traffic had dislodged some barriers. Luke spotted an aperture half covered by ivy. "Looks like wheel 12's blotch," he said, lifting vines. Inside, the cave exhaled cool, metallic breath. Elise switched on a lantern, revealing walls glittering with mica. They advanced cautiously. Despite childhood explorations elsewhere, this tunnel felt deeper, purpose-carved. 10 meters in, the passage widened into a low chamber where stalactites drooled calcite into shallow pools. On the far side stood a wooden crate, so dust-coated it blended with the rocks. Iron bands rusted yet intact. Neither spoke. Luke brushed debris from the lid, exposing faint letters. Fragile, vitre. Possibly once vitreux or vitre, glass. Elise pried at the clasp with her penknife. It popped, flakes of iron pinging off stone. Inside lay straw cushioning smaller boxes and a sealed tin cylinder. She lifted the cylinder. A label, faded but legible, read, Archives Régimentaires, 1940. Military Archives. She set it gently aside and opened one small box. Nestled within were 9 ruby-red cut-glass goblets, light refracting through still vibrant facets. Luke whistled. Church glassware? Or private collection, Elise said, scanning for maker's marks. None. She opened a second box, discovering a leather pouch of coins, francs and Belgian francs, most from the 1930s. Another box contained folded linen embroidered with a Bourbon coat of arms. Luke exhaled slowly. This is no mere resistance cache. This looks like someone evacuated valuables from a manor or museum. They stood in charged silence until Elise spoke. We must notify authorities. But carefully, Luke agreed. We don't want Paris swooping in to claim everything and rewrite history without local voices. Elise kneeled, heart pounding. Grand-mère guarded this crate her whole life. She left clues, but only to someone who read the cheese. She smiled sadly. She must have hoped family would find it and decide rightly. Luke nodded. Let's photograph everything in situ, then lock the cave entrance again. We'll consult Maître Fournier. He manages estate affairs and is discreet. Elise agreed, yet as she turned off the lantern, a faint crunch echoed behind them. She swung her beam towards the tunnel mouth and gasped. Henri Reynaud, Saint-Florian's sole taxi driver and resident gossip, froze mid-step, mouth ajar. He wore a reflective vest and held his phone aloft, filming. Elise's stomach dropped. Henri, friendly if meddlesome, must have tailed them, likely spotted the unfamiliar road on her bike rack and smelled drama. For him, a wartime treasure would be worth infinite clicks on his conspiracy blog. You found it, he crowed, stepping fully into the chamber. Knew you were up to something, Elise. Molds don't fool Henri. Luke inserted himself between Henri and the crate. We're documenting for historical preservation. You shouldn't be here. Henri pocketed his phone, smirking. Public cave, public finders keepers, unless you prefer we call the mayor. Elise struggled to keep calm. If you post photos now, looters will swarm by nightfall. Henri shrugged. Maybe I'd negotiate exclusivity if I received a finder's fee. Fire flashed in Luke's eyes. You followed us uninvited. Extortion isn't a fee. Henri's smirk faltered, but he squared his shoulders. Then we'll see what Gendarme Leblanc says. Elise stepped forward, voice low but firm. If the gendarmerie arrive, they will seal this site and confiscate evidence. Meanwhile, mold maps will still exist, and I will testify under oath how you obtained knowledge illegally, threatening cultural heritage. You'll be charged with trespass and interference, and your taxi license? Gone. Henry's cheeks reddened. His bluster deflated like a punctured tire. I just want the village to benefit, he muttered. We all do, Elise replied. Help us protect it properly, and you'll be credited publicly when the time is right. He hesitated, then nodded, avoiding her eyes. All right. What do you need? Silence for 48 hours, Luke said. After that, we'll invite the mayor, curate, and Maître Fournier to witness. Henri agreed, extracting a solemn promise in return that Elise would serve her prize-winning Saint-Florian at his niece's upcoming wedding. She accepted, shaking his hand. They resealed the crate, photographing each step, then lugged a flat slab to block the cave entrance anew. Luke marked the stone with chalk, an old resistance symbol, to find it later. Then they descended the ridge, Henri in tow like a chastened hound. By evening, the three sat around Elise's farmhouse table, sipping tisane while rain spattered windows. Henri's phone lay powered off in the middle, symbolic peace treaty. Luke cross-referenced parish deeds. The cave sat on communal land, simplifying transfer of artifacts to local stewardship. Next morning, they visited Maître Fournier, who listened wide-eyed, then escorted them to Mayor Colette Aubry. Colette, petite yet formidable, insisted on climbing to the cave at once. Gendarme Leblanc accompanied, more curious than suspicious, along with Father Damien, keeper of Saint Florian's modest church museum. They formed a caravan of 5 adults, plus Henri, whose taxi van carried tea thermoses. Inside the chamber, even the mayor's authoritative stride faltered at the sight of ruby goblets. Father Damien murmured a prayer of thanks, recognizing the coat of arms embroidered on the linens as belonging to a minor Bourbon branch whose chateau burned in 1940. Its surviving heir, a countess, relocated to Canada and never reclaimed property. Inventory lists from 1941 still marked certain valuables missing. So, Colette said to Elise, "You may have recovered displaced heritage, not mere loot. The prefecture must be informed." Elise inhaled, bracing for bureaucracy. "Of course. But I have one request, that preliminary cataloguing occur in Saint-Florian, so villagers can witness and learn before national agencies relocate items permanently." Leblanc considered, then said, "Given the crate's peaceful concealment 75 years, another month won't harm. I'll vouch for secure storage at the mairie." Consensus reached, they transported the crate under police escort to the town hall. Word spread inevitably, but with official framing, excitement replaced greed. School teachers organized field trips to watch historians catalogue each artifact. Elderly residents traded wartime recollections over coffee, piecing together how the Martel cellar became clandestine postbox. Yvette once courted a railroad clerk whose cousin served in the resistance network, evacuating valuables from threatened estates. When German troops advanced toward the chateau near Clermont, the network smuggled select treasures in railway crates labeled fragile vitres. They diverted one crate to Saint Florian, trusting Yvette to hide it until rightful claims could be made. She, fearing collaborators might talk, encoded the drop's location in her cheeses, rotating wheels each season, preserving the map's continuity, then waited for peace to settle. Post-war chaos scattered survivors. No one returned for the crate. Yvette aged, secrets intact, until her death in 2009. Perhaps she expected Elise's mother to solve the puzzle, but the gift skipped a generation. Elise stood in the palais-like council chamber, watching experts handle the goblets with cotton gloves. Warm gratitude surged through her. Her grandmother's audacity had crossed decades, and Elise's devotion to the craft had been the key. The thought left her giddy. That evening, Luke joined her in the cellar, where new wheels lay inoculated only last week. He raised a glass of cidre toasting. "To the map makers who live in microbes." Elise laughed. "To moulds and mysteries." Silence settled, peaceful at last. Yet Luke tilted his head toward a freshly mottled rind. "Is that a coastline?" Elise followed his gaze. Sure enough, delicate white blooms traced an outline resembling Brittany's Crozon Peninsula. She cocked an eyebrow. Luke grinned. "Do we start packing snorkeling gear?" She chuckled, turning off the lantern. "Not yet." First, let's finish cataloguing the current discovery and make Henry's niece's wedding cheese. The cellar door closed, muffling the world again to the quiet breathing of maturing cheeses. But in the darkness, Microflora continued their secret cartography, drawing not just maps, Elise suspected, but stories, reminders that even the humblest wheel could chart courage, cunning, and sometimes the most astonishing treasure.